Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee, Toyson Ford. Also got the resident branding company Swag Cave. That link is in the podcast description. I'm Dan Casper. As always, big thanks for tuning in. Brandon Berg's going to join me in the second half of this episode. He's going to join me to talk some Badger football, and college football in general. So that's coming up in the second half. We open up this episode of the podcast, though, talking a little Packers and with their game. Home opener, week 2. But going up against the Indianapolis Colts, probably without Jordan Love. So let's break it down. Keys to victory, key matchups in this contest between the Packers and the Colts, the season or the home opener for the Packers, Lambeau Field, Sunday, noon kickoff. Obviously, I'll keep saying it. To me, the biggest key is the game plan for Matt LaFleur and what he's going to call. How is he going to prepare Malik Willis? Is he going to kind of, not handcuff him, which I think we all know he kind of did with Love back in 2021, and he's kind of talked about his regrets from that. So that, to me, is the number one key. I've been pounding on the table for that. I think that's going to be a big one over there. Outside of Matt LaFleur and game planning and calling the game, my other keys to victory in this thing, I think for one, you got to control the clock if you're on the offensive side. You got to control the clock. You do that by running the football. Not just running the football, but you got to have success running the football. Okay? I mean, you got to be picking up at least 4 or 5 yards per carry on average. You got to have success on the ground with your ground game, controlling that clock. Because I think everybody in the world knows, too, that the Colts are probably going to come into this game trying to say, okay, we're going to load up. We're going to put 8 men in the box. Malik Willis, you try to beat us with your arm. You go out there and you try to beat us. I've got to imagine that's the mentality of this Colts defense right now. So even though they're going to be loaded up the box, I think you have to have success running the football. Maybe it's being creative in having success running the football instead of just lining it up in a power I formation, just turning around and handing it off to Jacobs. Maybe it's employing some more motion. Maybe it's employing some jet sweeps. Maybe it's getting Jaden Reed involved into the running game here a little bit more. We focus a lot on Jacobs, and rightfully so, bell cow type of back. But if you're going to be going up against a defense that is going to say, hey, we're going to dare your quarterback we're going to challenge your quarterback to go out there and try to beat us, well then it's all hands on deck in the running game. And it's spreading them out. Maybe we'll see a lot of spread formations, just trying to get some of the extra defenders away from the line of scrimmage, utilizing the running game in that way. But no question, I think it's still having success in the running game to control that clock. And I also think a key to victory, too, is I know you might be a little apprehensive to do this, but I think you do still have to take some shots down the field. You got a backup quarterback in there. I know there's chemistry, talk about the quarterback and the receivers and such. Still think you got to take some chances and take some shots down the field to look for some big plays, to keep that defense honest. I think you still have to be able. You still got to be able to go out there and throw the football. We look at Malik Willis's stats from when he was with the Titans. I mean, he didn't throw the ball a lot. I mean, barely. I don't think you could do that. I think you got to let him toss it around a little bit. He's got weapons. He's got better weapons, I think, during his time with Tennessee. Whether it's a Watson, whether it's a Romeo, whether it's a Jaden Reed, Dontavian, your tight ends of Kraft and Musgrave, plus the running game with Jacobs being involved in the passing game there too. Getting the ball to your playmakers. Getting the ball into their hands, whether it's taking some shots down the field, maybe it's a quicker passing game. But just you got those playmakers, let them make some plays. Design some plays. Maybe we'll see a little bit more motion than, we already know they run a lot of motion, but maybe we're going to see a little bit more. Maybe we're going to see some natural picks, some natural crossers just to get guys open. Scheming a little bit to get those dudes open. Getting the ball out quick for Malik Willis. I think that's going to be maybe a key early on in the game is to develop some confidence and get some confidence rolling here with Malik Willis, getting that ball out quick, getting some easy completions, some early completions, getting him into a little bit of a rhythm. Because I think if Malik Willis starts off slow, if he starts off slow in the passing game, might take a little bit to get charged up and get into that rhythm. So if you can develop that rhythm right away, and that's all going back to play calls and what the game plan is, but develop that rhythm and get into a quick passing game and getting that ball to your playmakers. That, to me, is a key. Offensive line, communication up front, too, is going to be instrumental in this game, especially with a new quarterback up there. I don't know how it's going to be with the penalties. You got a new cadence and, you got a new voice in the huddle, getting a play in, up at the line of scrimmage, calling checks, audibles, that sort of thing. That's where I think it's a benefit, actually, to be at home so you don't have, you're not on the road and you don't have to worry about maybe playing in a dome and it's loud, like if you're in Minnesota or Detroit or something like that. But communication up front between quarterbacks, everybody, offensive line and such, that is going to be key to this thing. And just the overall up front offensive line. Can they dominate up front? Can they dominate in the trenches? Not only for the protection of Malik Willis, but, again, going back to the assumption that the Colts are going to try to stop the run and force Malik Willis to beat you. Can they still open up some of those holes? Just enough for Jacobs or whoever to get through and get some positive yardage. Get a 4, 5, 6 yard carry. Average 4 to 5 yards per carry. Can that offensive line stand up to that task? Rise up to that task? Might be a long day for them. Might be a very physical day for them. But it's going to be key for those guys up front, not only just for the protection of a Malik Willis, but so many different things, running game and the communication up there too. Defensively, some of my keys, I think, we're all probably looking for a little bit of maybe not a little bit, but an overall better performance, tightening things up on the defensive side. Jeff Hafley talked yesterday to the media and such. And, yeah, he pretty much acknowledged that they got to do a better job. He said they created turnovers. They created 3 turnovers. But at the same time, watching film, he said we probably should have had more. And he talked a little bit more. He said it wasn't good enough about his defense. It wasn't coached well enough, and it wasn't executed well enough. We will be better than that. So I think we're all looking for a bounce-back unit. Again, going back to last week, we had said, okay, honeymoon's over. Enough talk. Let's see it on the field. Probably didn't live up to a lot of that stuff. Yeah, great, 3 turnovers and such, but Saquon was just named Ground Player of the Week, or NFC Player of the Week. If you're defense, you don't want an offensive player to be named Player of the Week after they just got done playing you. I'm looking for a bounce-back performance from a lot of these guys, whether it's a Quay Walker, more snaps for Edgerrin Cooper. We're going to get some snaps from Evan Williams. Some of those young guys. But, I want to see Rashawn Gary dominate. I want to see Kenny Clark dominate. I want to see some of these veterans go out there dominate. I want to bounce back from Jair. You're going to be going up against Anthony Richardson. You did a nice job of containing Jalen Hurts from running the football last week. A week from today, Anthony Richardson's a little bit bigger than Jalen Hurts. And he's not afraid to lower his shoulder. Probably not the smartest thing to do out there considering what happened last year, but he's a physical runner. Is Green Bay ready for that? Are they prepared for that? And don't forget, he's got a good arm too. Can you stay sound? Can you play sound defense? Knowing, yes, he is a threat to run, but guy will throw it too. He can throw it pretty deep. Because I think if you're Green Bay's defense, you cannot allow this game to get into a shootout. Just with the unknown factor surrounding Malik Willis and what's going to happen on the offensive side, if you're the defense, you have to take this game personal and be like, we are the unit that has to lead this team to a victory. We have to force turnovers. We have to get off the field on third down. We can't have long, extended drives. Lots of 3-and-outs. No 6, 7, 8-minute drives. Get off the field. Get after the quarterback. Collapse the pocket. Don't let Anthony Richardson step up and scramble. Don't let him hit the edge. That interior defensive front with Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Slayton, Wooden, Brooks, they got to bring the pressure up the middle. Gary, Preston, Lucas Van Ness, Enoch Barre, got to collapse around the edge. Collapse that pocket. And don't forget Jonathan Taylor's over there too. He's a pretty good running back. Don't let Jonathan Taylor do what Saquon Barkley did last week. Don't let him do that. Felt like at the beginning they did a decent job against Saquon, but just as the game progressed, maybe defensive lines were just getting a little bit worn out. It was kind of the same on the Green Bay side. Jacobs, a little slow. Packers did maybe a little bit of adjustment. Got her going there. But contain the running game. Play sound football. Create those turnovers. Get off the field. Don't allow long, extended drives. Defense has got to make some plays in this game. Give your offense extra opportunities with the football. They may need a few more possessions than normal. Let's say, if Jordan Love was healthy and playing out there. Well, he's not. You probably need a few more possessions out there. Try to get your offense those extra possessions. May take a little bit to get her going here. I want to see an aggressive, sound defensive performance in this game. I think we're all hoping to see kind of a nice bounce back. We're all I think we all want to see, okay, we had these high hopes and these high expectations for this defense this year. Let's see it on the field now when we really need them. When we really need to see that defense kind of come through here. Do you play a little bit like, okay, Richardson, beat us with your arm. We're gonna collapse the pocket. We're gonna clog those lanes. We're not gonna let you rush. We're not gonna let you step up. We're not gonna let Jonathan Taylor beat us with his legs. I mean, I'm looking at the secondary, and on paper for Green Bay, you'd think they'd have a little bit of an advantage there. So let's see it. Let's go out there and get the job done. Just get the job done. Should be the motto of this team for this game. Get the job done. I want to see touchdowns, not field goals. Not like last week. No offense, Braden. I don't want to see field goals. You get turnovers, you capitalize on those turnovers, and you come away with touchdowns. If you get into a situation again where you pick up some turnovers deep in the opponent's territory, deep in the Colts territory, you better come away with touchdowns instead of field goals. I know you got a backup quarterback and such, so that to me is going to be interesting if Green Bay gets in a similar position where, it's fourth down. You either could do like a 45-yard field goal, say it's 4th and 2. You can either attempt a 45-yard field goal or go for it. What do? Do you keep your offense out there? put your trust in Malik Willis? Or do you settle for the field goal? Just try to get some points out there. Just as a refresher from last week with the Colts, okay, in their loss to the Texans, 29 to 27. Anthony Richardson's lines, 9 of 19, 212 yards passing, couple touchdowns, 1 interception. He also led the team in rushing, 6 carries for 56 yards. That's a 9.3 average. Had a rushing touchdown. Jonathan Taylor carried the ball for 16 times, 48 yards. Alec Pierce was the go-to guy for Anthony Richardson in this game. 3 catches, 125 yards, just on 3 targets too. Obviously, that's going to be an interesting matchup, I think, there too with Alec Pierce. Who's going to be on him? But you also got Michael Pittman Jr., a little bit of a bigger receiver out there, 6'4". Alec Pierce is 6'3", so he's not not necessarily a small type of receiver over there. But, they got a couple options. They got a couple of decent options over there at receiver between Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. And Pittman Jr. had 4 catches for 31 yards. But how do you match up with those? How do you match up with those guys? Be interesting to see what the coverages look like. Try to slow down a couple bigger receivers that the Colts have over there. My key matchups in this contest. I go to one. I'm going to go with a couple of them here. Defensive front 7. I'm going to say the front 7. So I'm talking about your defensive line and your linebackers. The Packers front 7 against Richardson and Taylor. Can they contain Anthony Richardson? Can they contain him in the pocket? Can they bring him down if he does escape? Can they put some pressure on him? Can they rattle him here a little bit? But that front 7, that Packers front 7, I think is going to be a big key in helping determine this game. Getting off the field on third downs, not having long, sustained drives, putting pressure on Richardson, slowing down the run game of Taylor and Richardson. I'm looking at that front 7. On the flip side, offensively, yes, it is. I think a lot of us assume the Packers want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. They want to keep the Colts offense off the field. They kind of just grind this game out. Just grind it out. 6, 7, 8-minute drives. That I think is what a lot of people assume. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route here for my key matchup, though. And I'm a believer too. We could say it almost every week. It's in the trenches. It's the offensive lines. It's the defensive lines. Who's going to win in the trenches is who's going to win in the ball game. And more times than not, you're probably going to be right. But I'm going to go with a little bit with another kind of obvious one. It's going to be Malik Willis versus this Colts defense. How does he handle it? How does he handle this? How does he play? We don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea. But it's kind of a generic, it's kind of a blanket key matchup in this whole thing. But how does Malik Willis perform? Assuming he is the guy. I think we all assume he's going to be the guy. Unless Jordan Love pulls off a miraculous, kind of comeback or something like that. But Malik Willis, in terms of, handling a loaded box, does he have the freedom to check out of plays, to audible? His connections to the receivers, getting the ball out quick, not turning the ball over, making some plays with your legs if you have to, doing what it takes to win the ball game, doing your job. That, to me, is a key offensive matchup here. Yes, of course, it is running the ball with Jacobs. There's no question about that. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route because to me, that to me is is a big unknown on this thing. And part of me, too, is like, okay, we go back to saying we want to, contain Richardson and Taylor, right? We don't want them running the ball. What's another way of not letting them run the ball a lot? Jumping out to a lead. Green Bay had that opportunity last week. I mean, they did jump out to a lead, but there's a difference between jumping out to a 14-0 lead to a 6-0 lead. Capitalizing on those turnovers, not coming away with touchdowns. There is a difference. It's a 1-possession game to a 2-possession game. Because there's a part of me that believes Green Bay scores on those 2 touchdowns last Friday, or those 2 off those first 2 turnovers, and it's 14-0 compared to 6-0. Does that change how Kellen Moore calls the game for the Eagles? I think it does a little bit. I mean, Saquon's still involved in the game, but maybe they're not running as much. Maybe it changes a little bit. Like, okay, now we got to play a little catch-up. I think that changes a bit. So, for me, if Green Bay could jump out to a lead, that's kind of where I'm wondering, like, okay, your first offensive drive, maybe go for a big play right away. Jump out and put up a touchdown right away. I kind of want to see, I don't want to kind of want to see, I do want to see Green Bay jump out to an early lead and put a little pressure on this Colts offense. Like, oh, okay. And maybe try to take them out of that running game. Easier said than done. I understand that. But if the goal is to limit Anthony Richardson from using his legs, if the goal is to contain him, maybe getting him into, passing situations and whatever, and taking Jonathan Taylor out of the game, you got to jump out to an early lead too. Again, easier said than done, but we'll see how it all plays out. All right, let's take a quick break, and we're going to get Brandon in here and talk some college football after these quick words. Get ready for football season with Hy-Vee. Whether you're tailgating at the game or having a party at your home, Hy-Vee has all the essentials you need for game day. From meats to put on the grills to snacks and beverages, including their huge wine and spirits department, Hy-Vee is your tailgating headquarters. And don't forget to check out their sports shop too, where you can get some swag to help cheer on your favorite team, including the local high schools. It's football season. Score a touchdown with all of your football needs with Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. We're getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking our kids to all their games and activities, and you need a proper vehicle to get you to where you're going, and safely. That's where Toyson Ford can help you. Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. Check them out for yourself. Visit Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls today and check out their website, toysonford.net. All right, so let's talk a little Badgers in college football. First up, Badgers. Okay, I don't have any confidence in this. I hate saying that. I'd like to be optimistic at this point. Now, I know a question that Badger fans have had, a lot of Badger fans have had leading or these last couple weeks has been, okay, what we've seen from this team, are they holding anything back, or is this kind of how they've been playing? We talked to Colton Bartholomew earlier this week, who I know his columns sometimes, are
yeah. We run a lot of Colton stuff in the Chippewa Herald and at Chippewa.com. He does fantastic work. The whole State Journal staff does, but he does especially. He
kind of thought they were holding some stuff back based off of, he thought that's his job, following the team.
He's the Badgers football, the main Badgers football guy for him. That's what he's connected to 24/7.
And that's what he's kind of expecting this week is maybe them to open it up a little bit more. And he kind of specifically mentioned, Tyler Van Dyke is going to have to be the guy that really kind of leads this team to victory over here. So, on one hand, I'm kind of like, that's what I'm really kind of paying attention to in this game is like, okay, will they have some new stuff up there that we haven't seen in these first couple weeks? The other hand is like, I really hope they do because because the first 2 weeks didn't really give me a whole lot of optimism at this point. But I'm very nervous about the defensive front going up against Alabama tomorrow morning.
They got to find a way to hold up. They got to find a way to not get kind of gashed in the run game and get some sort of pass rush to put a little pressure on Jalen Milroe because you can't just let him sit back and the secondary is really good. We know what Rico Hallman and Hunter Wohler, those guys can bring to the table, but a secondary, no matter how good, can be exposed if quarterback has 4 or 5 seconds to throw.
Exactly. And Alabama's going to have some speed over there too.
And Alabama's coming off a bit of a scare too.
Right.
In their matchup last week. I mean, that was a competitive game up until the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
I'm more interested than excited.
I think that's probably the best way to put it, yeah.
Because it's been since I think it was the early 90s since a top 5 or top 10 ranked non-conference foe has come to Madison. It was Miami.
Wow. Yeah,
it was
now
the
that
U.
you say
it was the U back
yeah.
in I forget, or maybe that was even late 80s because that was I think when Don Morton was still there. So that might have been even more late 80s. So that was right in that that first run of the U.
Man.
And they won, I think, 41-3. The Badgers kicked a field goal to open up the scoring, and the Miami scored the last 41 points.
Oh, God. I hope it's not like that.
Right. But if there is a pathway for the Badgers to win this game, but it's going to require the defense getting a couple turnovers. That offense being a little bit more explosive. I still think that there's going to need to be a run game. Ches Malusi, Tawi Walker's there. Saw a lot of really good things last week out of Cade Yakimelli.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have, and I say this a lot, but I still think it bears repeating, when people think air raid, they think, the Mike Leach, June Jones throw 60 times. That's not necessarily what Phil Longo's air raid is. When you look at what he did in North Carolina, he had Javonte Williams there running for, he had, and Michael Carter, they had multiple 1,000-yard rushers. Even though they were an air raid team in that they spread the field out,
there's different evolutions of it,
there
right?
There is. They ran the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that. That's why I think it can be successful with Wisconsin because there's still that footprint that want to run the ball.
Right.
They just haven't been able to consistently do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a heck of a week for it. I mean, if they could find a way to do that, I just think above all else, you got to start fast.
Yeah.
If you fall behind 10-0, 13-0, 14-0, man, that's just such a tough hole to crawl out of.
And that's why I wonder how aggressive will they be in certain offensive situations too. If it's 4th and 1, where you can kick a field goal, but you might have to go for it.
Right. In a game like this, I don't think most fans would fault the Badgers for being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you're going to have to beat a team like Alabama.
Right.
There's an old saying in football, you don't win games kicking field goals. Now, obviously, the Steelers did last week, but...
Well, Green Bay didn't when they got 2 turnovers and kicked field goals instead of coming with touchdowns.
Exactly. Generally, the team that wins scores touchdowns.
Yeah.
Especially when they get in the red zone.
Yep. If Wisconsin pulls this off and they win, how much does that change the rest of the season for you in terms of expectations, or are you still kind of okay, I don't want to jump full board because you got USC after your bye, you still got Oregon, those types. But I mean, getting a top
Penn State
5
down the road.
Yeah. Does it change a little bit because if you beat Alabama, you should be able to. The road at USC is going to be tough.
Yes, they're off next week. So
right.
If they were, I think that works out well to where you could get that big win and then you have an off week.
Yep.
So where you can kind of feel yourself a little bit.
Let the emotions kind of subside a bit and regroup,
and then turn your attention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my expectations would say it, but I will say I think my excitement and juice for this team this year would.
Yeah.
Because if you beat Alabama, that shows hey, on any given day you can beat anybody.
That's true.
And that's all you want. As a sports fan, all you want is to go into any day you're watching your team play and say, hey, you know what? I think they could win.
Yep. Yeah. No, you're right. It'll be, I do think, though, if they do pull this off, you're going to have a lot of bad that's what you should do as a fan, right? At times, you should be on that high. You'd be here we go.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone's kind of looking for that first moment.
Yes.
That first fickle moment, so to speak, of where they win, because obviously, last year, for the most part, they beat the teams they should. They lost a few games that you probably thought they could have won, but they didn't upset anyone necessarily.
I like how you phrase that first fickle moment.
It could. at the end of the year, it almost was the bowl game against LSU.
Yeah,
because that was a game where they were not the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Even without Jaden Daniels playing,
right?
You looked at all the talent that LSU team, and they put together. That was to me the most impressive game the Badgers have played so far.
Mm-hmm.
Was that loss in the ReliaQuest Bowl to LSU?
Right.
You kind of you're just waiting for that first moment where you go, okay, now we get it. Now we see it. Because I believe Luke Fickell's a really good coach, But they just you want to have that one moment where it kind of galvanizes the fans, because you have fans that are excited and believe, but then you also have ones that are like, okay, well, we haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Like this, a win would be that moment if it were to happen.
Right. Elsewhere in college football, Brandon, I mean, things seem like they're kind of falling off the horse for Colorado right now. I mean, there's more stuff coming out about, yesterday we were talking about Dion and all that. Then there's more stories about, like, he apparently tweeted, then deleted the tweet, that he's got video of coaches trash talking him that would get them fired. And I don't know what's going on there. But, like, I don't know how to phrase this. When he was first hired, I know we talked about, is this going to change, not only the program, but like college football and all that. But it's one of those now that's looked like I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I have serious questions what's going to happen after Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders leave.
Right. Because that's the team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shedeur Sanders against Nebraska had no time to throw because, that's in the year plus that Deion Sanders has been in Colorado, they just haven't been able to, recruit, cultivate offensive linemen.
Right.
And tough to play quarterback no matter how good you are. And I think we both think Shedeur Sanders is very good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough to do that when you don't have much time to throw.
Well, you and I are both draft junkies, and I'll be curious to know kind of how his attitude this year is going to affect his draft stock.
Right. I mean, because
mock drafts have him as a first round.
Yeah,
but
it was a conversation with Caleb Williams last year, and I don't think Caleb Williams was necessarily. I mean, you kind of hear some of the things that were said after the Nebraska game, where maybe throwing their lineman under the bus a little bit or whatever. Like, when you're a potential first round pick, especially one with that much spotlight on you, the spotlight is going to be very intense on you. People are going to nitpick everything. I mean, for crying out loud, people were nitpicking Caleb Williams having his fingernails painted. Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, what does that matter for how someone plays football? It doesn't.
Right.
But, like, you're going to be under that microscope, especially when you're someone like Shedeur Sanders, who not only is a great player, but also, who his dad is and the situation, everything that goes into it.
Well, you look at, what last year when Deion was saying, these kids, I'm only going to let them play for these teams when they get drafted. And now you got, him leaving the game early against Nebraska last week. Only his rap song could play when he scores a touchdown instead of the band playing. And I'm sorry, but it's giving me a little bit of flashback to the Balls.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not
and here's the thing.
Deion obviously is Deion compared to...
Yeah, you can't compare Deion and Mr. Ball.
I can't even remember his first name, can you? It's been a while.
The first thing I think of is the clip. I think was when he was on whatever show where we talk about undefeated, never lost. That's the only thing I think of when I think of him. But because obviously Lonzo, LaMelo, like they went on, like there's talent there, and that was the thing, and that's kind of the case here too. LeVar. But like, yeah, you're right. Like at some point, it gets to be too much. And like, look, you and I. And anyone else that's of our age, like in the 1990s, Deion Sanders was the coolest dude ever.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like he was when you think of like 90, when you think of just like 90s athletic icons, Deion Sanders is at the top of that list. When you think of,
I had his poster, I had the bandana. My third grade teacher nicknamed me Deion. I loved Deion.
He had the cool nickname. Like he played two sports. Like, and not only that, he played them well.
Yes.
There's a 30 for 30 on it. Deion's double. Where it talks about how he played for the Falcons and also played for the Braves when they were in the playoffs.
Right.
Like, nobody is... I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
I don't think it
is. At that level.
Yeah.
Because of, there's so many...
I don't think teams will allow it.
Exactly.
Yeah. In those contracts, they're not going to allow it.
There's just certain ways things have to be done. Like, and if that's how you're going to be, you have to be really successful. You have to be so successful that people... can kind of ignore the fact that you've kind of got your own subtle quirks to you. Mm-hmm. And that right now, that's not happening at Colorado.
Right. Yeah, I remember, it was like, okay, he's going to go to Auburn, maybe he's going to be the Dallas Cowboys
maybe
coach,
Florida State, depending on what happens with Mike Norvell there. I
don't think you can.
No.
That light how quickly it's turned to, him being named Sports Illustrated Person of the Year or Man of the Year, whatever it was, before he coached a game. And it's just...
And my thing, too, is, like, I do think him being a coach and having some modicum of success is good for the sport.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to stand here and be like, oh, I don't like Deion and I hope he does bad. It's just
I wanted it to work.
Yeah, because it's... I mean, you've even seen with just, like, the ratings for the games that they play, like, it's a draw. Mm-hmm. That's good for college football, even if you maybe don't like it. Mm-hmm. Or you just don't like Deion Sanders. Like, it's good for college football if he can help prop up a program like Colorado that's really it's been down since the 90s when Mike McCarthy was there.
Yeah. Cordell Stewart,
Right, yeah. Cordell Stewart, Westbrook, like when they won the Nationals, that kind of stuff. But it's just like, it's a lot has changed in a short period of time, and it's going to be an uphill battle to try to turn it back around. Especially
if, next year, assuming.
Travis right, yeah. If he, assuming like, I mean, you would think, if Drew Sanders and Travis Hunter are on the NFL.
But that's the thing, too, is like, if I'm a quarterback-needy team and I'm in the draft and Shadour's there, and you look at, we've seen guys fall.
Yeah, everything that kind of comes, everything that comes. We've seen people fall for dumber reasons.
Right.
Look at Teddy Bridgewater when he fell for, he wasn't wearing his glove at his pro day. It's like.
Right. Exactly. So, I don't know. I this is why I'm not a general manager, but I would be a little nervous.
Yeah, because
then okay, you got your coach say it's not work. You're gonna have Deion saying,
let me coach him.
Yeah, say no, they're not using him the right way. They got to be doing this. They got to be doing that.
Pro sports teams hate distractions.
Yes,
like you have to, as a player, you have to be at a tippy top elite level for teams to put up with it. Mm-hmm. If you're not, they will, much more often than not, they will just say, you know what, it's not worth the headache. Mm-hmm. It's not worth the distraction, no matter what it is.
You know what this kind of reminds me of, too, is the whole Deion and Shador father-son, son playing for father. Reminds me of, not every case, I think some people have gone through this or have experienced it, when you're playing in a youth sport and you can tell who the coach's kid is. Right? I mean, you're laughing, but there's those instances.
There is.
You can tell who the coach's kid is.
Yeah.
And it's not every team's like that, but there's some teams that have that.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's like, oh, that's the vibe I get with this a little bit. That's I mean, obviously that's the coach's kid, but I mean that's kind of the attitude vibe I get from this a little bit. And it's gonna be a wake up call when it gets to the NFL.
Right, when he's
on a team that's like
grown men who aren't going to be impressed or wide-eyed because it's Deion Sanders.
Which you'd think would benefit him because his dad is Deion, who played at that level, was very successful at that level. But
there's going to be so many kids like, I'm going to shut this kid's mouth right now.
Oh, 100%. Like the corner from Cincinnati this week.
Talking about Xavier Worthy,
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm starting Xavier Worthy in fantasy football this week because,
right.
There's like, don't, just shut up. Why do people, well, the only thing he's good is he's fast. Just stop.
Yeah.
Because there's part of me, too, like, don't tell me Patrick Mahomes is like, you know what, I'm going to try to get Xavier a couple extra spots.
Like, that's my
now.
guy. Like, let's,
yeah.
Let's try to twist the knife a little bit here.
Yeah. Just shut up, people.
And just coaches like Zach Taylor's just probably like, because coaches hate, like I said, teams hate distractions. Coaches hate bulletin board material.
Oh, yeah. If you think it's overrated, talk to a player who played D1 college or pro. No, they pay attention. They use it.
The best motivators for athletes, and I think this about just people in general, like your best motivator is yourself.
Yeah.
But the thing I will point to with this example was 2 years ago when Georgia went back-to-back. And you had Georgia players saying, nobody believed in us. Like, you were the number one ranked team to start this in the preseason. How can you say nobody believed in you? But that's how people, that's how athletes need to get themselves motivated. Like, different people do it a different way, but a lot of people want to, I'm the underdog for whatever reason. Like, that's how you get motivated. Even if it's not true, like, they'll still do it.
All right, that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. And as always, don't forget to check out Swag Cave, the residence branding company Swag Cave. That link is in the podcast description. Also, if you don't mind, if you got a few seconds, if you haven't done so already, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel because the podcast is up there along with some other video content over there too on the YouTube page. Until next time, I am Dan Casper, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.